At Kansas Speedway, Brian Vickers and the number 55 Aaron's Dream Team started the race from the front row, our best starting position so far this season. But quickly in the race, he reported handling issues that caused him to drop back to mid-pack by mid-race. Now, a late pit stop with only 30 laps to go enabled us to take big swings at the handling of this car, and Brian was able to drive it from 20th all the way up to 10th. The special paint scheme that you saw in Clint's car this past weekend at Kansas Speedway, the number 15 5-Hour Energy Pink Lemonade to benefit Living Beyond Breast Cancer Toyota, will also be seen at Charlotte and as well as Talladega next week. And that leads us into our first question from Philip James Fox, asking about what our preparations are going to be for racing in the rain next year. Well, on top of racing Goodyear rain tires, we're also going to have to add windshield wipers, defoggers, and rain lights that flash in the rear of these cars. As a pit crew, we're constantly focused about keeping our pit stall clean and dry so we have the most grip on our surface as possible. Now, if it's raining out there, the tires are going to be wet, the surface is going to be wet, and that's going to make it real hard for us to do our job as fast as we could in dry conditions. This week's top question is a two-part question from Betty on Twitter. Betty's a proud Walnuts member from Council Bluffs, Iowa, and she asked what the wheel covers were that we place over the tires in the pits, as well as the ones that are on the car when they go through pre-race inspection. Well, they're actually two completely different things. The wheel covers that you see in the pits are placed over the wheels once we glue the lug nuts to the wheel. These wheel covers serve several purposes. The glue takes about 4.5 hours to set up. So after we're done gluing, we place these wheel covers over so that no dirt or debris gets inside the glue. Also, there's a lot of moving people around our pits before the race, and this keeps anything from dropping on, people setting purses down on these lug nuts, or water bottles falling. Lastly, and most importantly, it keeps the fans from removing a lug nut and taking a keepsake from the track. Now, as a pit crew, the very first thing we do on race day is tire preparation. We brush and clean these wheels to remove any rust and debris before we glue these lug nuts to them. These lug nuts have a beveled edge on them where we place the glue, and the wheel has a reverse bevel to this. So when we glue the lug nuts down to the wheel, we then tamp it with a wheel weight so that they're all flush up against the wheel. The last thing you want is a lug nut to be slightly off center. Then when we index the tire, the stud is actually going to push the lug nut off, causing a lug nut to knock off, slowing our stop down, or causing a pit road penalty. Now, the second part of your question, we're going to need to answer up at the shop. Now, Betty, the second part of your question about the white caps that you saw at Kansas Speedway on the wheels of the cars as they pass through inspection were for NASCAR's laser platform. This inspects the underneath portion of the car and measures things as far as rear wheel, front wheel camber, wheel placement, axle location, and many other things underneath the car up to 1/1000th of an inch. Everything else on the body is still measured with the templates as you see behind me here. Now, this laser platform also saves teams and NASCAR officials a lot of time in the inspection process, because the minute the car rolls up onto that platform, the lasers digitally read all the RFID tags that were placed on the chassis when it got cleared by NASCAR's research and development facility. Well, that's all we have for you this week as we roll into the final night race of the season, the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte Motor Speedway.